Hi, this is Cindy Cochran. Welcome to the podcast of my show. Remember, you can join me live every weekday morning from 10 to 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio, on Conroe's FM 106.1 and 104.5, and globally on irlonestar.com. And don't forget, you can download our app at your app store. If you're a big fan of my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube and SoundCloud channels. And you're always invited to my Facebook page, The Cindy Cochran Show, for the latest show info. Thank you again for listening, and now enjoy. Good morning, everybody. Wow, it is Wednesday. We are so close to a new year. It's amazing. So I just hope everybody is ready, and you've got your plans for the 31st. And I know mine in the house, next to a roaring fire. No, that's not true. We can't even have a fire in the fireplace because of allergies. But I know I'm going to be home and just probably snuggled up to the TV and Sam, and that's going to be it. But that's, when you get old and you go like, okay, I've been there, done that. Now I'm going to just stay home and enjoy that. You're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, of course. And we are just, on the countdown to that happening. But remember, today is a very special day because we are remembering Joe Esposito. Esposito was, Elvis Presley's closest confidant. He was his road manager. He became an author, and he is just an all-round nicest guy you ever want to know from everyone that's a close friend to his. So, of course, our LA connection, and who knows everybody, is Don Wilson. And he will be on with us at 10:15, and we're going to reminisce and let him reminisce because he is just, he has all these memories treasured up in his heart, and he's going to share them with us. And it's exciting to know that somebody was really right there with Elvis and what happened, and for this guy, Joe Esposito, to be just all the friends that he has and all the people that remember him from his passing just a few weeks ago. He is, he's like the best friend you'd ever want to have. And so we're hoping that we get to share some memories and the goodness of this guy and how his interaction with Elvis went. And the person who's going to bring that all to us is going to be Don Wilson, because Don was Joe's really close friend, and he was really close to Joe. And so this was really hard on Don. So we waited a while before we wanted to have Don share because this has been difficult. But he's ready to do it. And so he got up 2 hours. They're 2 hours behind us. So it's, it's only 8 o'clock there. And so he's up and ready. And we will be talking to him in the next segment. So stay with us. I didn't know if
I wanted to let you know I saw Rogue One on Christmas, the day after Christmas.
That's so funny. I was just getting ready to talk about something about Star Wars, but you saw it.
Well, you asked me to tell. You asked me to tell you
immediately.
What's funny is I took Holly, and she's never seen Star Wars really. She's seen it, she remembers it, but she doesn't really remember as much as I remember. And she said something that was really funny to me, and I was bothered. Is if you don't remember the very beginning, they don't have the title crawl.
They don't.
They don't have the standard intro, and so she's like, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
The whole movie, I have no idea. I just didn't really get that there were two organizations, two rebel organizations,
right? And
then there was the Empire, and she's kind of like, and I think I'll get it if I watch it all over again.
Yeah.
All the Star Wars, and my nephew too. I went with my nephew, and I got him into Star Wars when he was really young. That was the first gift I ever gave him was comic books, and he knew all the characters, but he was so confused about the timeline from it. And I was like, the one movie you think would have a title crawl to explain
exactly,
and to bridge the movies to anyone that's never seen it.
It's not a standalone, for sure.
Well,
you have to know everything about it.
And it was just really funny because he got confused, and I had to explain it to him, and Of course, he was real excited and he couldn't sit down, but because he's 6 years old.
Yeah.
But no, it was funny. Like I thought the movie itself was it's kind of hard to talk about without giving it too much away. But then again, like I already knew the story, so I wasn't really expecting anything new with that. And I thought they did really well with the characters, but then the point is kind of mute with them. So, and I think that's kind of silly because I want to see these people in the news or like the Star Wars world. Well, if that makes sense. All those characters are really cool, really fun. And I want to see them in the newer ones.
Well, I was so lost. Just like Holly. I'm so glad to know somebody else.
No, she literally looked at me and she's like, I just have no idea what's going on. Right. And I looked at her and I was just like, well, they're good, they're bad. That's really what you got to focus on. And you're good. I mean, that's how you explain that. But you know, it was probably it was better than The Force Awakens, that's for sure. It was better made, and storyline wise, it was.
No, I thought J.J. Abrams was much better in the action field than this thing was.
Really? I thought the action scenes were pretty cool because there weren't any lightsabers. That was the issue.
It was so dark. Everything was. It was that when they make it and it's all in real shadow, heavy shadows, and it's dark. I can't stand that. J.J. Abrams lightened it up, and you could.
Well, it's because they're on a desert planet, which is bright. And then they're on a snow planet, which is bright. But this movie took place in space, pretty much, and then on a crud planet inside caves, practically. Right. So
it was just. Ugh.
But no, like I said, my only complaint really was they created this really cool world, and then I'm afraid to say that I don't think we'll ever see these people again, like that world, this storyline. We'll really never see anything like that, which is kind of silly, but you know. Because they did a better job than the Force Awakens.
Okay,
so
you think there's going to be even more, right? There's going to be more.
Yeah, they already have a Han Solo one planned, and then they have
Carrie Fisher. May she rest in peace. Is going to be.
They've already filmed.
They
filmed episode 8.
Right.
So what people need to realize, it's like there's a timeline with the core movies, and then there's
so convoluted.
And then there's like ones that go around it and in between, and they don't have a label for it. They kind of started with a Star Wars story. That was kind of the subheading for Rogue One. If you look at the early publications of Rogue One, it says like it has a little Star Wars Rogue One, and underneath it says a Star Wars story. So it's supposed to say like, oh, it's not the Star Wars, but it's a story in the universe. But they didn't really do that. And they didn't have a title crawl, so everyone was really confused about what's going on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And when you don't get that dun 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 when that thing goes, you don't even know where you are. I'm not in a Star Wars movie.
But think about that, though. Think about some pompous something just goes, oh, we don't need that. We're not Star Wars, so we don't need a title crawl. And I would totally be in that room like, you know why we have the title crawl, right? It's for the people who don't know what Star Wars is.
It catches them up.
Like it's like 2 paragraphs of like, this is what's going on.
It was boring, but
the movie itself was well made. I think it was cool. It was fun.
Don't you think it was for purists? It was for purists, right? Don't you think? Now, it wasn't a standalone. It wasn't something somebody could come off the street and enjoy. You have to have so much backstory in your head.
You have to be a fan. Yeah. Well, I mean, I like I said, I think the director did really well in creating the characters. I think he should be in charge of the other Star Wars instead of J.J. Abrams, because like I really hated Force Awakens.
I know
I really hated it.
I mean, you were offended.
And it's not even from a pure standpoint. It's more from like a logical dread. Like if you watch all the other movies and then you watch that movie, it kind of goes like, well, I thought that couldn't what? Like what?
Yeah.
And then,
well, what I wanted to say in the beginning was, and why I was glad you brought up Star Wars, was because in Fort Worth, they're having a horrible time recruiting policemen. They have lost so many policemen after that tragedy that happened there. They're not getting recruits.
HPD's about to lose a bunch of policemen too.
Well, look.
Not due to that though.
Listen to what Fort Worth guys came up with. They decided they were going to do a recruitment advertisement and incorporate Star Wars in it. Have you seen this?
Join the Empire?
Go ahead and look it up, because it is just, it's hilarious. But is it the stormtroopers are the ones with white?
Yes, well, they're black and white and...
Right. Okay, so So they have the stormtrooper, and they're
Oh, I see it. There's a viral video. It's a recruitment video.
yeah, and so this police officer is standing next to him, and they're trying to get him to shoot the target, and he keeps missing it, and he's got, and it's not a bullet, it's the light.
It's a gun. It's like a lightsaber or like the laser gun.
Laser gun, and so he keeps missing it, and so he says, "That's terrible. Why do you think that you would be a police officer? What do you think? What talent do you have?" And he says, "Well, it's just I think it's because it keeps moving or something." And he goes, "Nobody could shoot that far down there and get it in there." And so the police officer pulls his gun out and hits the center target every time. And he goes, "Well, he's standing kind of in front of him. He said, "Well, you're closer to the target than I am." So they keep pushing him closer and closer to the target, and he still can't hit it. And so he said, so it ends up saying, if you can shoot, if you can do a better shot than a stormtrooper or whatever, please call the Fort Worth Police Department. So if you haven't seen that, you can go to YouTube and just say recruitment video for Fort Worth Police, and it's great. It's really funny. So that's their way of trying to get people. You're right, though. Houston Police, I think probably a lot of police organizations are having a hard time in recruitment right now. So,
well, you know what's going on with HPD?
No, what's happening
is they're changing their pension plan because the mayor.
That's right.
The mayor. This is the first mayor to finally do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when you make adjustments in the budget, people lose. So
yeah,
it's kind of funny what's the scenario they're facing, especially how government handles pension plans. So. Do you know what's going on? Did you hear what's going on with that?
I heard that they were changing it, and people were getting really mad about that. And when he said he was going to do that, although it's a good thing, but
it's forcing, it puts officers who are legacy officers in a position where it's better to just retire
right
now than to keep working, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. I mean,
because if anyone doesn't really know, you can look at pension plans. Pension plans are really interesting with the company, especially with the investment world, because they invest your money to make the pension. It's not like they just put your dollar in the bank and they just let it sit.
No,
they invest that money.
Yeah.
Well, HPD ran into some trouble with their pension plan, and what's happening now is the way it worked was if you did 20 years, you get X amount. If you did 25 years, you get X amount. If you get 30 years, you get X amount. If you had 35 years, you get X amount. And now they're capping it. And they capped it. So now you can't keep working and keep working and keep increasing your pension. Basically, when you hit 20 years, you're capped.
That's going to be
You can never get any more. So you can you continue working, getting a paycheck, but you're not increasing your level of office. Like you don't get more money in your pension. So now
you
might as well just cash out now. Yeah. And because a lot of officers have lost their 5-year, 10-year additional.
Yeah, so incentives are not there, and the danger is there, and there's so many things that are happening, and because of the way that police officers feel like people look at them.
Well, what's funny is, depending on how old you are, the contract you had with the city, it's still input, but they're changing it around how you get the money.
How you get it? Oh, that's cold.
Well, it's funny because my uncle is an officer, and he's been an officer, I think, 35 years. He just loves being a policeman. He didn't care. Like that's what he literally. That's what he goes. Like, I'm not taking it because I just want. Like, what am I going to do? And he's a K9 guy, so he does extra jobs. He does all his kind of. He just loves being a police officer. And he loves Houston. So, I mean, he was with SWAT for like 6 years or 4 to 6 years, and then that's when he was younger, much younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just funny hearing him because I imagine all these officers don't know what's going on. They're not financial people, and they're like, wait a second, what?
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, a lot of them are just retiring. A lot, like a big number.
Right. That's what they're saying, and I can assume that would happen around a lot of places.
So if you're a thief or a burglar,
it's good.
Your numbers are in your favor now.
Yeah.
For the next year until they recruit.
Yeah, that's what we want to do is be sure and promote that. Really, really, really good. Anyway, but I just thought I had to tell you about the comparison and how they're going to, raise the awareness and get people to come in. I don't know if it's going to be effective, but it was really funny. Anyway, we will be right back with Don Wilson. Don't you go away, and we're going to be talking about the very great Joe Esposito. Okay, so guys, stay with us, and we will, it's real reality radio. It's all about that. The Cindy Cochran Show. Hey, this is Cindy. Just wanted to thank you personally for listening. Remember, live is even more fun, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. And if you or someone you know would like to sponsor The Cindy Cochran Show, please message me on my Facebook page, The Cindy Cochran Show. And we're back on The Cindy Cochran Show. Thank you so much for listening. And I know all of the Elvis Presley fans and Joe Esposito fans are out there listening. And the family of Joe Esposito, that's what we really wanted to do this for, because to give this guy his due. And the only one that can do that correctly would be Don Wilson, our LA connection, our LA Elvis connection. And Don is on the phone with us right now. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, Cindy.
You know, it just feels like I just talked to you hours ago while I was shopping at Kroger, and there you are.
I seem to have that type of perception too.
No, I called Don, and I was walking into Kroger. You should never call people when you're walking into Kroger. You should call, after you finish shopping. But it's so much fun to walk in there and know that I'm talking to Don Wilson, this really famous guy that knows everybody in Hollywood, and he's on the phone with me while I'm getting Hamburger Helper off the shelf. So it's just fun to do that.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is so exciting. It was very exciting. But more exciting is your memories of so many great people, and that we've had like three right now, like Bowie, we had Michael Jackson, and that was George Michael, singing entertainers, and then of course Carrie Fisher. Just entertainers that have just passed away, and you usually have to have time to get over one of them, and then another one comes along, and the curse of three, and that people go, and these entertainers are like, they're like, like, what's going on, and people get so upset, and I understand that, because you feel like I'll never see them again, but that's not true, is it? No, because go ahead.
It's not. And Elvis was very aware of that. He was very aware of his time on Earth, and he used to talk about that type of thing quite a bit. He was very spiritual in that aspect.
And what did
he knew he only had a certain period of time here.
Okay. And that's what he would. But he had a better outlook than probably a lot of entertainers that don't think about things like that, because he was very deep and like you say, spiritual about thinking, knowing that at one point this is all going to be over and it's okay. And he was okay with it, right?
Yeah, he was. And I believe he was really ready. And we knew he'd been in bad health, but, he had a massive heart attack. I mean, Dr. Nick was my doctor as well, and he was explaining that by the time Elvis had fell, he was gone. I mean, they could have resuscitated him, but it was like Carrie Fisher. Her heart stopped, Elvis's stopped, and you really couldn't resuscitate him, to where they would have been able to live. So
right,
I know it. You have to try. It's just like they tried hours after Elvis had passed away. For some glimmer of hope, but
Oh. That's so sad. And but knowing that you feel like he went very quickly, so that's that's good. But he had so many people that surrounded him, that loved him and protected him. And of course, the one that we all think about is Joe Esposito, that he was there. And I know that how devastating that must have been to them, because they lost such a close friend. It wasn't just that he was the boss or whatever, but he was part of their family, correct?
That's correct. And I couldn't picture Elvis without Joe. I mean, when I first met Elvis, you had to go for Joe Esposito. First, you had to go for Colonel Parker. And then you got to Joe, because Joe was kind of like Colonel Parker's right-hand guy, as well as being Elvis's right-hand guy. So he was
I didn't know that.
The go-to guy. Yeah. And so Yeah, and so I was thinking of Carrie Fisher, and I was talking to actually one of her friends last night, Joanna Pettit. Privately we were, remembering Carrie, and
Uh-huh.
it was. I was thinking of one thing that Joe tried to do for Elvis was, it was on the the 15th. That was Elvis's actually his last night, and he was trying to get Star Wars. Which that was a Tuesday. That was a let's see, Monday. I believe it was a Monday. And 15th was a Monday, and Star Wars wasn't going to come out till Friday. Sometimes Elvis could finagle getting the film early, and he tried to get it show for him and Lisa Marie, his daughter, but he was unable to do it. But Joe was the one that was trying to get it.
Oh, man. And you think you get a call from Joe Esposito, and the Elvis group and the members of his group that are surrounded him. You get a call from that guy, and you wouldn't try to move heaven and earth and try and get that movie to them. And now, can you imagine how they feel because they said no? Oh man, like that would have been a great way for them to just to have that time together, and they didn't. They couldn't do it. That's terrible. So
yeah, I hope the guy at the film service felt guilty about it for a while.
I bet, because that was in 1977 when Star Wars came out. I remember that, and then in August, it was August 16th. Was it August 17th when Elvis passed?
He died on August 16th, which was a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I still have the old Commercial Appeal Memphis newspaper, and it shows that Star Wars was going to open that Friday, I believe. It was that Friday, so it was just like, 3 days later. So. Oh
my word, that's right. Because I can remember
there's that little tie-in there.
And everybody it's so in different. They have to be pretty impactful events that happen in the world that everybody remembers where they were when they heard that news, and when that news came across the radio, when it came across TV and all, it was just devastating. I was just backing out of the driveway of my grandmother's house, and they said that. And it was surreal. It was absolutely surreal to me. This cannot be happening. And my sister, I found out, was at work, and she dropped everything. She called her husband, we're going to Memphis. And so she got on the plane and was there. Yeah. She said, I have to be there. I have to be there. And, and thousands were compelled that same way to be there, just to be close and support or whatever that they wanted to, show. That's just, it was just amazing. And when
he pretty much orchestrated, the events that surrounded Elvis's death, just like he would, in life. He was in charge of the funeral as well.
You mean the way Joe had to be in charge of the funeral?
Yeah, he pretty much, took charge of that. It was just like, getting ready for another concert, but this was, Elvis's, last appearance, and then so Joe told me that it was 3 months before it really kicked in. He said, I was sitting there and I was doing bills, I was doing paperwork, and it just hit me, Elvis isn't coming back anymore. I'm never going to see him again. But it took him a while, to really have it sink in.
Well, we're talking to Don Wilson, if you're just joining us, and Don was mentored by Elvis, and he took him under his wing after Don had lost all his family, and which is an amazing story in and of itself. And just recently, Joe Esposito, who was a road manager, who was his closest confidant, and did just like he's saying that Colonel Parker leaned on him as well for things to get done. And this guy was always in the picture. Either it was, whether he was shadowing Elvis, in front of Elvis, or whatever, he was always there. And that's who we're talking about right now, and how he had, he had, I guess him being so busy getting the funeral done and all of that probably helped him get through some time of transition until it finally hit him that it was over.
Well, yeah, and he was the one that actually was, talking with the press on behalf of Elvis's family at the time of Elvis's passing. He was the first one they spoke to. Oh. And he told me that when they asked him to announce Elvis's death. I can't do it. So I had Jerry T. Francisco from Baptist Hospital, and he announced it. It was one thing that Joe just couldn't do. It just couldn't bring himself.
I remember that the doctor had come out and talked to everybody, and but it was just something that no one could believe until, that concert that he was supposed to be going to, and the tickets and stuff that people were holding on to, and all, and I can remember them talking about that. That was just, people were just glued to the TV to find out any information they could find out that this isn't really true. This hasn't happened. But that's why I imagine for you and for those that were close to Elvis and that knew his family, his daughter and his wife, and so many people that this touch that you were close to, how hard that was for everybody. I just were you there? Were you at the funeral?
I went to the viewing. I didn't go to the funeral. But I do remember Charlie Hodge. It was one of Elvis's guys. This guy gave him scarves and sang harmony with him on stage. He was very broken up about losing Elvis, and he lived there at Graceland with Elvis, pretty close by,
Yeah.
And so he started laughing. And I said, "Charlie, why are you laughing?" He said, "Leave it to Elvis to do this. He's going to sit up in a minute." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Only Elvis would do this to get all of his ex-girlfriends and all of his girlfriends and his ex-wife in the same room."
That must have been awkward. Wow. Hey, listen, I know you have so many more stories, and we've got to take a break, and so we'll be right back on the Cindy Cochran Show with Don Wilson, Real Reality Radio. This is Cindy Cochran. I just wanted to thank you for listening. I know your ears will thank you for the experience. And don't forget to listen live when you can, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. The Cindy Cochran Show, Real Reality Radio.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the first daily talk show serving Montgomery County.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show. Thank you so much for listening. And it's just fascinating to me. Every time we have Don Wilson on, he comes up with some story, he says something, and you just go like, man, that is really behind the scenes, and that where you never read that in one of the magazines, the teen magazines or anything like that. So I just appreciate you sharing this stuff with us. You've been talking about Elvis for a while, right? You had a radio show, isn't that correct?
Yeah, and it was in Memphis. It was called the Mystery Train, and my catchphrase was, "You're riding on the Mystery Train. You never know what's coming around the bend." And so I had quite a lot of Elvis's pals and cohorts on there.
Well, you had people constantly probably calling you and saying, "Let me share my stories with you. Let me share, what happened with me," and that must have been, so fun to get to see all these people. I see that you had actually been talking to Glenn Campbell, and apparently he was somebody that you had a friendship with.
Yeah, in fact, I'd met him. My grandfather worked with his brother-in-law at the time, and so when Glenn came to Houston about 71 or 72, I met him for the first time. And I kept that friendship with him, all through the years. And so if I needed him for a radio or a TV appearance, he said, "Okay." And there he was.
That is
so it was great.
That's so wonderful. I love seeing all the pictures. Now, if you go to my Facebook page, Don has given me so many pictures of him, but even more if you go to Don Wilson Hollywood Beat. Is that right? Don
Right.
Wilson's Hollywood.
Yeah, right. Don Wilson's with an S. Don
With an
Wilson's
S, okay.
HollywoodBeat.com. Yeah.
Yeah, .com, and you see all the pictures of the stars that Don has surrounded himself with and has access to. It's just so much fun. And you gave me another name of one of Elvis's guys that said he would come on and do the show. And so
That's right.
what's his name again?
Larry Geller. That
Larry
was Elvis's.
Geller.
His hairstylist and a spiritual advisor. You know, I mean, he's one that's responsible for Elvis's look with that hair and everything. So that
Really?
hairstyle.
Oh, that's so cool. I want to know if he's the one that styled his hair for the. It was kind of a comeback thing, but he wore all black leather, and it was kind of an intimate studio type of. And he stood on the. They were sitting on the stage, and all these girls all surrounding him, and he was playing he'd play hollow body. It was just real informal, and he sang a lot of his favorite songs and talked about his life as Elvis Presley. Do you remember that special? We were glued.
Oh yeah, it was the '68 special that was on for NBC. It was called Elvis.
Right.
And in fact, there's a couple of girls in the audience that were right there on the front row. I mean, I know one of them on You Could Talk to Her.
Oh, really?
And, she was a friend of Elvis's. In fact, she dated Charlie Hodge. Anyway, you've got an Elvis connection now, so you'll be talking to some of those who are really close to him.
That would be awesome because I mean we were glued to every second of that special. My sister and I and her friends watching that was so amazing, and whoever did his hair was just like, we all agree that that's how you should always wear it. But
well, see, that's what you can ask Larry. He started working for him in 1964, and he worked for him until he passed away. So he was there a long time.
There's nobody that would have probably had a lot of stories said to him, or if he was upset with something or he didn't like something. And they've just been showing all these movies of they did like a marathon Elvis movies, and there was one movie called Tickle Me. I think this was coming to the end of Elvis putting up with doing these movies, because I mean we kept hearing that he wasn't excited about doing the movies. Was that correct?
Well, yeah, because he kept getting the same script. I remember one time I heard him say, he said, I just got tired of doing them. And he said, it's bad enough that, I was singing with a guy I just punched out in the last scene,
That's so, because it would be so, they'd be in some kind of, dialogue, and then he'd just break out in the song. And I know that it had to, I mean, I wasn't that old when I watch those, and I go like, this doesn't make sense to me at all. It can't make sense to him. And the beach movies and all the things that he had to put up with, and these girls were so bad, but he did work with some, like Anne Margaret and some of the people that we kept hearing and kept speculating about all kind of romances and things that were going on. And it kept it interesting.
He just got caught up in the '60s thing, and all those movies were like that back then, just about.
It's true, and you're right. It's probably the same script with different names and different location that he was in, and so they're really fun to watch. But the ones that the Love Me Tender, I understood why after he did that, that's what he wanted to kind of do, is that because he felt like he really could do drama, and he had that. He did great in that one movie, and I was sitting in there. I must have been about 8 or 9 years old, and I remember all the girls screaming through it. And I couldn't hear what he was saying, and I kept telling them, "Shut up, because we couldn't hear the movie because they screamed every time he opened his mouth and said anything. They would scream. But after I saw
the way it was in real life too,
See, that's what I mean. It's like I understand that from the Beatles, because when the Beatles came on, that was my time to scream. My sister, was more in the age group where she would scream at Elvis, but it was just a fascinating time. Now I want to get back to Joe. When did Joe start working with Elvis? Do you know when that happened?
Oh yeah, Joe was. Actually, at basic training in Fort Hood, Texas, at the same time Elvis was, and he knew he was on the base, and he was thinking like, well, maybe I'll get a chance to meet him. Never did. And then when they were shipped off to Germany, that's when they actually met each other. And then Elvis said to him, he says, well, what are you going to do when you get out of the Army? He said, I don't know. I guess I'll go back to Chicago, and get a job, there. and like maybe I'd be an accountant or something of that nature, you know. And he said, "Why don't you come work for me?" And he said, "Okay." So,
Oh, wow.
and so from 1960 when Elvis came back, he'd had Joe, relocate, and come and work for him, and so he was his right hand guy from 60 to on to 77,
That's
and that's how it started. And Joe's told me all kinds of things that I remember being with him and AC Lyles. He was a producer at Paramount, and this is a little known fact, is that when Elvis was at Paramount, he would go to AC Lyles' office, and John Wayne would be there on some occasion, and they would have lunch together.
oh
And that's about the only. Yeah, and Elvis usually didn't have lunch with other celebrities, but the Duke was an exception. So a lot of people don't know that.
oh that's awesome. Yeah, well, you love to hear that conversation that they talk about, like what they would have in common and what they would what conversation would they have that people would love to know that, because John Wayne, it seems to me, was not, unless he was drunk, he wasn't real talkative. That's what his friends would say. He was pretty quiet guy. And Elvis seemed like when he was alone, he was shyer and didn't talk as much. Now, is that the complete opposite? Did he talk a lot when he was just with a few friends? Because
well, yeah, if he knew you and he was comfortable around you, he was a lot more himself. Yeah, I mean, he was nice to everybody, but
right.
I will tell you one thing about him and the Duke is that actually John Wayne had come to Elvis wanting him to co-star in True Grit, and Colonel Parker didn't like the billing. He wanted Elvis's billing, to be over Wayne's, and that was a no-go.
Brother! Oh no!
Yeah,
Slapped him silly. You felt like the control that Colonel Parker had over Elvis. Did Elvis ever complain about that, or did he just accepted it and said, like, at least I don't have to worry about those things?
Well, he put his foot down with, like Steve Bender, when he wanted him to do that 68 special you were talking about, or when Mac Davis wrote In the Ghetto, Colonel Parker said no, and then he said, well, no, I'm going to cut the song. And the same thing with Suspicious Minds with Mark James. In fact, I just saw Mark Christmas Eve, but he wrote, some great songs for Elvis, and so he would. The thing is, Colonel Parker didn't want someone with another songwriting company to write for Elvis. He wanted to have the royalties or
to
have
keep
the
all the publishing and
get
stuff.
half of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Oh man, that's that's right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to follow up with the thing about True Grit, he was very gracious when the movie came out, and Glenn Campbell told me that he'd come to Memphis, and he and his wife, and they went to the Memphian and saw True Grit with Elvis. So I thought that was great.
Oh, did Elvis feel? Oh, that's so. I guess Elvis never expressed the fact that I could have done so much better than that.
No. And he liked Glenn, so he never would have done that.
Okay, there you go. That's awesome. I think that the fact that Joe had written a lot of books is interesting, and his books were much more fair and more, about Elvis, as some of the other books that had come out from other members of the Memphis Mafia. So you feel like the books that Joe has written, Elvis would really be pleased with.
I believe so, and I'll mention what they were. Is Good Rockin' the Night is really the story about his friendship with Elvis and all of the years. And then there's one called Elvis Intimate and Rare, and that's more of a photo book of all the years. And as you want to have an addendum, that's Joe Esposito's girlfriend at the time of from 74 to 77 during Elvis's lifetime, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some time beyond that. His girlfriend was Shirley Dew, D-I-E-U, Shirley Dew. And she's got a book called Memphis Mafia Princess, and that details a lot of their time together, being around Elvis. So those are some that your listeners might want to pick up on.
Right. Now, would they just go to Amazon, or how would they find the books?
Yeah, they've got them on Amazon, and I know for sure that Shirley's is still there, and if nothing else, you can probably get a used copy from Amazon or eBay.
Right, right. Oh, that would be so cool. And Good Rockin', is that the one that did the best or sold the best, or had?
Yeah, that's the one that did the best, and it was a nice hardback book from Simon & Schuster. And so, it's pretty ready available, I believe,
Well,
and the documentary, go ahead.
Go ahead about the documentary, yeah.
I was going to say there's also a documentary that's been out of print all these years, but Joe and I worked on a documentary for 3 years called Definitive Elvis, and that's like 14 hours altogether. It's 16 episodes about Elvis's entire life. We had offices next to each other, and so he would get certain people for an interview, I would get certain people, and so you can get that on Amazon or eBay, but it's kind of pricey. I mean, it was $100 when it came out, and I think it's probably maybe $50 or beyond that.
Well, yeah, but
increase in price.
16 hours. That's pretty. You can amortize that out. And that's pretty good. That's awesome. Well, that would be for the a lot of people that maybe my age and all that just really love Elvis, but that's not true anymore. I mean, there's a lot of younger people that get reintroduced to him and his music and all that, and that also, will have an interest and invested in Elvis, and they'd love to know things like that. They could find 16 hours. That's amazing. Also, what about fans and fan clubs and things like that? That cults and all. Are you familiar with what is still out there?
Yeah, there's. I'm not sure about the number, but there's roughly about 1,000 Elvis Presley fan clubs around the world, and they're all registered with Graceland, Elvis Presley Enterprises. So you can contact Graceland and ask about a fan club near you that you can join. And there's also online fan clubs, and with those there's no dues. It's just all digital, but. It's amazing just how popular Elvis is. It's just like he could have done his last concert yesterday.
That's amazing. I think that his music, of course, is always there, and it comes up in commercials and all that, and even cartoons. You'll hear Elvis. And my grandson said that his teacher loves Elvis, and I'm sure the school didn't know about this part of the curriculum, but she talked about all his music, and she played his music while they were in their classes. This is I think he was in kindergarten at this time, and he'd come home and go, "Now who's Elvis? Tell me about," because my teacher loves Elvis, and so it's interesting. You never know who's like a really, really, really big fan, and those people that are like you say, 1,000 different fan clubs all over the world. That's amazing. So I was wondering, I also wanted to ask you about Joe's family, and are they all in L.A. or where's his family? In Chicago? Still in Chicago?
Well, his son is, I believe he's out of the country right now. That's AJ, and his daughters are here. I know for sure that, Cindy is in the Los Angeles area, and then there's also Debbie. And I'm in touch with Cindy. I haven't been with Debbie for quite a while, but and then his second wife, Joe's second wife, she had a brain tumor, and she had passed away in 2012, and she really fought hard, and so that you could tell that there was. Joe wasn't really the same after he lost her. It really saddened him, of course.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, and but Joe was the go-to guy if you had a problem. It's like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's work it out. Let's see what the options are. I mean, he was always like that. I mean, I first met him in 1970 when I met Elvis, and then who would have known that years later, we would have worked together on, some projects. But, not only Elvis, I mean, he was also road manager for Michael Jackson and the Bee Gees and Karen Carpenter and John Denver.
Wow.
And he worked alongside Jerry Weintraub. And Jerry, that's another story, because I knew Jerry and know his son now. And but anyway, he had a dream that he was going to be a promoter for Elvis, and he called Colonel Parker for a year and said, "I want to put Elvis on the road. He's crazy. He's making movies, And he said, "Okay, Jerry, give me $1 million. Meet me at the International Hotel in Las Vegas, and you can promote him." And so he did. He got a hold of his friends at Concerts West, and they backed him. He said, "I'll give you 50% of all I get."
Oh, man.
And that's how Concerts West and Jerry Weintraub got Elvis.
Oh,
he took $1 million, gave it to Colonel Parker, and he said, "Okay, we're going to take it up to Elvis." And they shook hands, and the rest is history.
That's how great! What a visionary Jerry Weintraub was, because of how popular that helped bring him back. And I'm sure he was so happy to get back on the concert stage out of the movies, and be able to start touring. And that's just, oh, I love that. I love that story. That's wonderful. Well, I know that his family is certainly, is still grieving for his loss, but I think that,
oh yeah,
that, if you Google Joe Esposito and it has Elvis's name after it, and it has a plethora of all the background, and all the things that Joe has done. But I didn't realize he was road manager for all those groups. But what a great to come in and say, "I'd like to be your road manager." And you said, "Well, what have you done?" "Well, I've Elvis Presley." "Okay, fine." And that's all you need was that as your as your background.
Oh yeah, and people would do anything for Joe. It's just like I told you before, real quick. I'll say, he said, "Well, who'd you get this week for an interview, Don?" I said, "Well, I got Glenn Campbell." He said, "Well, I got Mac Davis." And you know about that. Glenn marrying Mac's ex-wife.
Right.
Well, anyway, we went over and talked to Mac, and then Joe, just his sense of humor, he says, "Hey, Don just interviewed Glenn Campbell a couple of days ago," and Mac says, "That right."
You have any messages for your no? Oh man.
Right. Right. Let me put it this way. He could. He would. I would get certain people. He didn't think I'd get Eddie Arnold, and I did, but.
Uh-huh.
But he got people like Kenny Rogers, Tony Orlando,
Man.
Barry Gibb, and and so I would sit down and interview these people, and then Joe was not much of an interviewer, and I said, "Come on, Joe, ask some questions." And next thing you know, it's like he's Rona Barrett. I mean, he wants to he wants the interview, and so Joe and I would do the interviews start to end. Yeah.
Well, he just the background he had in his head, especially being road manager for all those groups and what he has seen, and he should be writing books about all that. And I'm sure, the books about Elvis that would be the most popular, but to have all that info in his head about those groups and what the roadies were like and what it was, how the change happened, because from when he was, being the road manager for Elvis, and then with these other groups, what kind of change would happen? Like what, was it always the same? You had the same girls, like trying to get into the bus or whatever, but they must have some amazing stories about what went on in those buses, because, and I don't mean bad, I just mean that you're with each other for so long and people talk and they just, tell all kind of stories that would be fun to listen to. But maybe I'm too curious that way, but that would be fun for me to read. I think.
Well, we'll talk when we're not on the air. Maybe I'll tell you a few, but yeah, I can't tell you do it on the air. But yeah, it's it's fun. It's a lot of things, and I think that the most interesting thing is how Joe could orchestrate. Like one of his girlfriends, say like Linda Thompson's leaving, and then maybe Sheila Ryan is coming in. You'd be on the walkie-talkie. Okay, Linda's going down the elevator. She's in the car. Okay. Send up Mindy or send up, Sheila or whatever.
What intrigue. Trying to keep all his women straight. I love that. Don, you are so amazing. And we're at the end of the show. Richard had to walk around the table and stick his hand in my face. Cindy, we're about to end the show, because I haven't even looked over at him to get times or stuff like that, or look at the clock, because I enjoyed talking to you so much. I just hope that Joe's family will enjoy this interview as much as I have had, talking about him. And you are so sweet to have, put yourself available to talk about these things. And I know you've had to probably answer these questions over and over again, but you act like it's the first time you had to say the story. So I really appreciate that, Don. And this is not your last time to be on here, but I wanted to tell people, you can go to Don Wilson's HollywoodBeat.com and find out more about Don and all the people that he knows. And it's just amazing. Don, thank you for being with us today. I hear the music coming.
It was great.
And listen, everybody, I just want to tell everybody that tomorrow is, and you may want to listen to this too, Bob Smiley's going to be on, and, he's an amazing comedian, so don't miss that. But Don, thank you, and this show will be up, and within about 48 hours, we'll have the show up in the archives. Thank you, Don. Have a great day, and
okay,
you know what?
Enjoyed it.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Okay, guys. The Cindy Cochran Show, real reality radio, and you guys have a Happy New Year.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Dick Schisler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schisler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.